Hi, in this video I'll attempt to fix the damage on this 99 Nissan March. I tried to look for a second-hand replacement door, but unfortunately the older K11 platform isn't as common these days, so I'll have to fix this myself. So yes, this is a Nissan March. It's also known as a Nissan Micra in some markets. It's nearly 20 years old, so the car's seen some better days. And it was brought to me after it had an altercation with this gate hinge. So you're probably wondering why someone would bring the car to me with my very limited experience. And to that I'd say, yeah, I may not have Scotty Kilmer's 50 years of experience, but I have done this before. Once before. So this is a story all about how we ended up here. Because this car's not worth that much, it only had third-party car insurance. After the accident, it was taken into 2 panel beaters, and one gave a quote of $1,000 and the other one gave a quote of $1,500, which is pretty reasonable, but because this car has a market value of about $1,500, it seemed a bit silly spending that much to fix the car, and this is where I come in. So I offered to do it for the cost of materials, and my reward was getting to practice on someone else's car and hopefully not cause more damage. That's enough of me talking. If you like this video and you want to see other car projects like this, don't forget to subscribe. And now we'll have a closer look at the damage. So there's a nice hole here, and careful not to cut myself, but the metal has actually peeled. And after a couple of weeks this is starting to rust. And this happened while reversing, so the damage started at the back and it moved its way to the front. Now before deciding this can be fixed, we need to make sure the door is still functional and it opens and shuts okay. The damage looks bad, but it's more superficial, and the actual structure of the door is still fine. And the hinges look good. And I'll start by removing the door card. The door handle unclips, and we have 3 screws underneath. With the cover removed, you can see the support safety bar. If this was bent, I wouldn't attempt to repair, but this looks untouched. I don't have any specialty dent removing tools, so I'll be using this pole to slowly push the metal out. After working from the inside, I pulled the rest out from the outside with pliers, and I'm cutting off any excess loose metal. Now we're going to make it worse before we try making it better. I'm grinding the panel right down to metal, so that the body filler will bind onto the surface. And I'm going over the back panel to remove any rust. Now I'll be using this body filler or Bondo to attempt the repair. Now I'm putting on the first layer of Bondo. The key here is to add thin layers to prevent it from cracking. And this is after 5 layers, and as you can see, we've completely covered the hole. Now that that's done, it's important to protect the metal from the inside to prevent it rusting from the inside out. So I added a few layers of paint to prevent it rusting. And now I'm taking off the excess filler by sanding that down. The paint on the inside is dry now, so it's time to get the door card back on. and putting things back together is always harder than taking them apart. But I got everything back on and I didn't break anything, so that's always a positive. Now we have some low spots, so I cleaned the surface with solvent and I added another layer of Bondo. So I cleaned the Bondo with wax and grease remover and I added another layer. And we're running out of daylight and it's getting cold, so I'm using the heat gun to warm up the surface. And after half an hour it was dry and more sanding. And now it's an hour after sunset and the car was needed for work the next day, and I didn't have time to work on it till the following weekend, so I needed to protect the surface from rust. I covered it with 3 layers of primer and I was out the door. And now it's a week later with some daylight. The surface is still not even, so we'll need to add some more filler. Now you can't add filler to primer, so more sanding to take the primer off. And a wipe down with some wax and grease remover. Now we're nearly there, so instead of using an orbital sander, we can just block it down with some 400 grit. It's better doing it this way so you don't take too much filler off. Now it's time to use some blade putty to remove minor imperfections. And after 45 minutes of drying, it was time to sand down. I put a thin layer of primer down, and now I'm using a long block to show up any highs and lows. We have a couple of spots which need more work, but unfortunately I have to leave it here. And we're running out of time again. It's going to be dark in 2 hours, so it's time to put the primer on. And I'm flattening down the edges. And one last wipe down with solvent before paint. And now down with the matched paint. And now we're coming towards the end of this project. So the total cost came to about $85. And that includes all the consumables such as sandpaper, wax and grease remover, fillers, primer and paint. This job took about 10 to 15 hours, and most of that time was spent waiting for filler to dry. I could have cut that time down by making the panel straighter to start with, and since the repair area was quite large, maybe splitting the work area into two parts, so while I waited for one side to dry, I could have worked on the other side. I didn't clear coat this due to cost. Clear coat in a spray can is quite cheap, but because of the high moisture content here, I've never had good experience with it. I usually use a compressor with moisture filters, but if I did that, that would have costed an extra $60 to $80, and for this car it just wasn't worth it. The paint should be good for at least 2 years, and we could always do a touch up if needed. And this is a 6-month follow-up, so if you look closely here, there's a bit of a bulge. I didn't have time to make that straighter. The door doesn't look too bad. There's a slightly raised edge here and there's a couple of dents, and if you zoom in closely you can see a few holes, and we could have filled that a bit more with the finishing putty. The edge doesn't look too bad. There's a small dent here, but that was a bit hard to reach from the inside. So on the whole, yes, it's not perfect, but it's not too bad. It's not glossy and it's not perfectly straight, but at least there's no big hole in the door. So I've learnt a few things, and I hope you have too. If I had more time, I would have tried for a better finish, and in this case it didn't make sense to spend more time and money on clear coating and polishing. So this is the end. I hope you've enjoyed watching this video. If you want to see more of this and other car projects, don't forget to subscribe, and thank you for watching.